So it's 6:30, March 28th, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Select Board to order for this evening. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you all. Glad you're here. I'd like to the first order of business to just call out our rules of procedure, which the Select Board adopted at its last meeting. We don't have a copy of those here this evening. It is available on the website, and basically it just calls for us to be gentle and kind with one another, and raise your hand if you have something you'd like to say. We'll make every effort to call on you at the appropriate moment. Just so you know that in the rules of procedure, there is an opportunity as the Select Board's considering any business. There is an opportunity before we vote on an action, after it's been motioned and seconded, there's an opportunity for the community members to speak. So we'll make sure we make that possible tonight. All right, so I'd like to know if there are any changes to the agenda, Select Board. Do we have any changes?
I do not.
Any changes? Okay. Thank you. We'll move ahead then. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
I so move.
Okay, I'll second it.
All right, so Richard moves and Veranda seconds. Is there any discussion about those minutes? Thank you. So I'll take a roll call. Richard.
Aye.
Rusty.
Aye.
Veranda.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
And someone says aye. All right, thank you. So normally on the next part of the agenda would be the highway report, although Dan's not here tonight. He called me about half an hour ago and said that he wouldn't be coming to the meeting, but he also said that nothing has changed. Nothing has really, since the last time he spoke with us. In other words, they're dealing with mud. So that's the extent of what he has to say. So.
Well, it's all frozen today.
Yeah, today was a quiet day. All right, we're moving on to new business. And the first order of business there is the Select Board agenda format changes. And this is mostly coming from my suggestion. There's a version of the, and I'm sorry we can't share it on the screen, but Select Board members have a copy of a proposed some adjustments to the agenda. It's not really changing too much. It's my proposal would be, and I'd like to have a discussion among board members here in a minute, but let me just run through it quickly. The rules of procedure, we would make an effort to enliven those at each meeting a tiny bit with a statement or two about how we're working and how we intend to go forward here with the community, and making sure that we're very open and available through the rules of procedure. So that's not a real change. The next change that I would propose we make is that I'm proposing that we call it a welcoming of the public. Right now we have what's called recognition of the public on our agenda, that we welcome the public and that we adopt a small 10 to 12 minute period at the beginning of each meeting, at which we would then hear from community members who would like to speak to the town. This is not an opportunity, would not be an opportunity for community members to speak or address the Select Board. There would be no particular addressing of any particular individuals in a moment like this, but it's just an opportunity for us to hear what's on people's minds. There would be no discussion or no expectation that there would be a discussion, an expectation about being able to discuss a topic. If there's a topic that needs to come forward to the Select Board, it needs to be put on the agenda. We're restrained by state statute. We cannot just openly start discussing a topic that's not already on the agenda. So if a topic is on the agenda, we can discuss it. So I would imagine that after a moment like this welcoming of the public moment, that there might come a topic out of this kind of discussion that might go on to the next agenda or a following agenda if it seemed, if it felt like that was the appropriate way to address it. I'm talking with Peter about this piece, about the idea of finding a way so that we can organize it a bit. Peter's, so that we could actually have people sign up to be able to have a 3-minute slot. We give each person 3 minutes. So that would give us a chance to hear from 3 or 4 people at a meeting. We'll just try it and see how it goes. The next adjustment that I would like to make is to that we would have, instead of having a separate section called highway, that highway would become one of the updates that we would hear at every single meeting. And that we would also then expect another report from another community, another aspect of our community, either a commission or a nonprofit organization or one of the related associations that we're working with, like the school or the fire department. We would develop a schedule so there would just be general updates for us to hear from the community about how things are going. Then we would move to old business. So we would begin to deal with issues that we had talked about at our last meeting. On today's agenda, for instance, we're dealing with new business first, and then we're going to go to old business second. And I prefer to switch that around so it feels like we're dealing with material that we dealt with last time. Forms a kind of logic, and then we would come to new business next. So that's the extent of what I'd like to do. I wonder if there's any, probably without Peter, it would probably be smart for us to just make sure we have a straw poll if people are comfortable with this. Are there things people would like to say? Anything but let's offer anything.
I think it's a good, those are good ideas, Don, and I'm all for instituting them.
Yeah, I like those. I like those ideas as well. You know, I welcome hearing what people, you know, from the town want to say to other people in the town. And I think it will be interesting to see, you know, how that goes. It's like talk to the camera.
Right.
And I also like the idea of adding another organization or commission. You know, we've done that informally, but I think it will help with the momentum. And there are so many groups in the town that are doing very interesting work, largely volunteer work.
Yep.
And I think it would be great, you know, it would be their opportunity to speak not just to us so we could be on, you know, maybe helpful to them or hear about what they need, but they can also just raise consciousness about what they're doing. So I'm all for it.
Great. Michael, do you have any?
I'm all for more community engagement. So,
Okay, good.
and hearing more from the commissions, I think there's a lot of value to that as well.
Yeah, great. Rusty, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, it sounds like a good idea.
Okay, since it's my job as chair to set the agenda, so I don't know that I need approval from you all, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So, and I would like to add that I think it's very important that I'm very much in favor and enthusiastic about members of the community speaking to the rest of the community, but I think it's very important that we control the time limit that we have within it, because it's not a debate, it's just a presentation, and that we need to underline that this is not, these folks are not speaking to the select board, they're speaking to the community. So we're not really engaging back and forth. And that I'd also underline that if something comes up, then it would come on the next select board's agenda.
Right, yeah, exactly, Richard, that's right. I lived in the community for a while where this practice was done, and there was actually a set of time cards that were kept in front, so people knew exactly how much time they had. And when the end of the time came, there was a bell that rang, and that was it. And so it was just a way to keep everything moving.
Okay, I just wanted to add that, you know, that timekeeping is a sensitive issue, and that I would want everybody just to know that we're in this together. It's not like if people, you know, that the select board are the gatekeepers and the gate gets opened and closed. It's just that this will be a way that we can all hear more And I'm not sure what the best way for timekeeping would be, but, if anybody has a good idea about it, they could just email or call and let us know what would be most comfortable.
That's great. All right, thank you all very much. Thanks for that. Okay, so next on the agenda for new business, we have Richard Clark with public records requests. So,
Nice to hear from you.
welcome.
Morning, afternoon, evening.
Do you want to have a chair?
No, I'm good. Early February, I requested emails from the town administrator's computer.
All right.
A few days later, I got a letter with a proposal for $13,352, including $7,000 legal fees. Now, to elaborate on that, since the town pays the league for attorneys, why are attorney fees even in there? So obviously that's way out of the Secretary of State's guidelines. If you look, the Secretary of State does set the guidelines. So I came back last Monday, got thumb drives, because part of this was photocopying, which is understandable. Mr. Root promised me at 5 o'clock he would have those thumb drives loaded. Consequently, it didn't happen. I got another letter for $810. And everything I asked for is on the computer, with very few exceptions. I was on the board for 15 years, so I have a pretty good clue.
Yes.
And he keeps saying, I gotta call my attorney, I gotta call my attorney, I gotta call my attorney. And that should not be the case. All I'm going to do is get copies of these documents, put a cover letter on them, and send them on up through the Montpelier to Secretary of State and the Attorney General, and see if perhaps I can't get some response that way.
Okay, well, thank you. I hear what you're saying. I hear all this. And it is true that it is true that every single, what I understand, and I'm new at this myself, but I've dealt with FOIA requests in other organizations. But what I understand is that we are constrained by statute that we can't simply release emails out of a system to anyone who asks without having a legal review of those emails. That's what I understand. I may be wrong.
I think
That's far-fetched.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what I have understood. So,
Yeah, that's not the case.
okay.
There's very few on there that are exempt from public information. And if they are on there, they shouldn't be.
I'm not sure that, I understand that. I'm not sure that the point is to try to keep emails from anyone. It's just to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into any kind of legal issue that.
And I have to say that every time we have a confrontation, he says, I'm doing what the Selectboard says, so he may be throwing you under the bus at some point. I don't know.
It's a good question, though. Who is in charge? Peter Root or you guys?
Yeah. For the attorney, I asked him, does he ever use the league? And he said, no. He said, I have to use the one in Burlington that the Selectboard requested.
That's correct.
So
Why is that?
that should not be.
Why
Why are you using, if the Vermont League of Cities and Towns will pay for a lawyer?
I'm not sure they will for every kind of issue. I'm not
They are
sure.
municipal attorneys, every one of them. The answer I got was, they don't give me the information I want. So that's the thing.
So
That
we-
came from Peter?
That's from Peter, that's the thing. It's not what's good for the town and good for everybody, it's what I want, so, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
John,
Yeah.
the way I understand it is that there is a statute that the lawyer has to review the material because that there may be protected information in those emails.
That's what I understand too, yeah. It's I'll have to go, I didn't look it up today, but under Vermont statutes, section 317C, there's a note here about that the exact same thing Richard was saying, so we'll have to look that up.
There's also a 318C that covers the loopholes that you're trying to.
318B and 5, yeah, they're, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, appreciate this very much.
Under the Freedom of Information Act, I think that's covered under that act.
Yes.
And it says in there that emails and whatever is public record is available to the public,
Right.
but the board is allowed to charge a fee unless the person wanting the record comes in with his own device and somebody in the office sets him up, and then he can copy them himself for nothing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. I think that's right, yes.
So the reason I'm here is because I'm running into the same kind of issue, but Mr. Clark here is looking for looking for the planning commission information. I'm looking for conflict of interest information. So I sent out an email request for emails from Richard Wazansky and Peter Rood. And I also wanted the conflict of interest questionnaires that you guys have been filling out since 2018, I believe, was when Guilford signed that petition on their document. So I get a response from him saying that he needs a lawyer to look through this. And I said, well, can I have the documents, the documents that you guys signed, the disclosure statements. The fact that they're disclosure statements means that we should be able to see these. He said the lawyer needed to review those also. He said that they would all most likely come out and be public information, but he said that the lawyer wanted to look at them. So I thought that was kind of odd. So I sent another document request saying I'd like the breakdown of that cost for what the townspeople are going to pay for my request to have it vetted. And why I'm looking at this information is because of an issue that I've discovered in 2019 where the select board had told Richard that he needed to recuse himself from some funds being doled out to the library because at that point he was a trustee of the library. Fast forward to our where we get the library on the ballot and Peter Rood reads the lawyer's statement. Michael says, I'll make this motion. And Richard, the select board chair, said, I'd like to, do we have a second? Well, no one seconds it. So he seconds it. So we went from a meeting where you guys were all in, not you, but you were there, Michael, Branda was there, Sheila was there, Richard was there, all saying that Richard needed to abstain from a conversation about library funds for less than $10,000. Now, fast forward to where we are now, and he's seconding a motion and then voting on it. So I want to know what happened between Peter Rood when he said, I hate to be a stickler here, Richard, but you shouldn't even be discussing this motion about the library too, allowing him to second it and then vote on it for over $1 million. So I want to know what happened. What happened between Peter and Richard, where he went from being a stickler to not doing anything about this. I also want to know, so I wanted to come here and say that I would like to be put on the agenda to discuss the conflict of interest. But here's my problem is he wants to charge me $815 to get emails. So when I spoke, hang on. So I sent him this email. He says he needs a lawyer to look at it. I said, okay, I want the breakdown of lawyer. That following Monday, he sends me the itemized bill. So I sent him an email. Well, did you talk to the lawyer? And he says, well, those documents don't, he says me this, those records do not exist under the above names or any other names that can therefore not be provided. Pursuant to VSA 316I, the town is not required to create public records where these records do not exist. The town attorney bills monthly. We've not received bills we requested. So did he talk to the attorney? When I asked him, he won't tell me. So I don't know what's going on here. All I know is I'm asking for simple documentation to find out that every one of these emails at the bottom of the email says these are all public record. Now, Peter Rood gets paid $60,000 a year to look at your emails. And if he wants to put them in separate folders and flag them that, hey, these have been identified as sensitive information, then you put those in another. Other than that, all he has to do is select Richard Wazansky, select all, and hit send forward to me.
I hear you. Thank you. Could you and I have just meet sometime? I don't have
Let's
any
meet
answers
right
for
here.
you tonight. No, I don't have any answers is the point at all.
Well, that's what kind of bothers me. It's like you guys are in control here, or is Peter in control here? Because Peter is really the one who's pulling all the strings from what I can tell, and he's not here to answer to this.
Well,
And you're telling me that you think And Richard's telling me, you think there's a state statute that you have to have a lawyer go through
There
it?
is a state.
No, there's a state statute that says we're not required, we're not allowed to have all information. That if there is some sensitive information there pursuant to that statute, then we can be exempt from that. But you're still supposed to tell us that there's something there. And then we can talk to the lawyer and say, hey, is this something that we can actually see or no? But to actually call in a lawyer and pay a lawyer on top of what we're paying Peter to do the same exact job. And then, so he gives me 30 hours to look at this. I ask him, what's the breakdown? He won't give me an answer to it. So I'm just being stonewalled here, just like Mr. Clark. And that's why we're sitting here. We want you guys to come up with an answer.
I'm not attempting to stonewall you. I'll say that right now, just really clearly. Let's put this on another agenda because I know it's not, your issues aren't germane to our
Can we make
discussion.
an action item though? Can we say, hey, look, the select board is now going to be in charge of these document requests. It's not just going to be up to
We can't do
Peter.
that tonight. No.
Well, no, but put it on the agenda. Yeah, let's,
Yeah, absolutely.
do you guys not see a problem with this?
I understand what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I see that there.
I mean,
yeah, there-
$14,000 for
there's
public documents,
I think
$800 for
As I
public
understand
documents.
it, that was a mistake. The first one was a mistake, a
He
misunderstanding.
did this in February?
Yeah, February,
It's
February
almost
16th.
April.
And
I
then, and then 10 days, the date of the, yeah.
I hear you. I understand. I understand. And I'm not attempting to stone you all. Well, I don't think any of us is trying to do that. We need to understand more deeply than we do. I do. So before we can turn it into an action item. So if acts requesting patience is stonewalling, then yes, I am stonewalling, but that's not my.
Okay, well, how about we got Rand and Michael here? They were both in that meeting.
No, we're not gonna take time now. We can't.
Oh, all right, okay, we can't take time now.
But
It's-
because
What are you talking about? This is on the agenda. We're talking about getting public funds. I'm bringing you my issue. I'm telling you, 2 members were in that meeting who said that he should recuse himself, and now we're voting on it. Now he's voting on it and passing. What are we talking about? Does Miranda or Michael have anything to say again for that, or they were both in the meeting?
Not this evening, because this issue is not on the agenda.
Are you speaking for both of them?
No, I'm not. I'm
Sir, sounds
speaking
like it.
for-
Michael, do you have anything to say about that?
I have
Miranda,
something to say, which is that we do have rules of procedure, and being civil to one another is one of those rules of procedure. And when the chair of the select board tries to speak to you in a civil way, then pushing against it seems uncivil to me. I mean, I also feel as if, I mean, just speaking personally, that, I mean, you want to hear what I have to say.
you were in the room, yeah, you were in the room.
Well,
He
what
had to
I have
recuse
say
himself and
is-
then no.
okay. I mean, this is just what I feel as me, okay, and as a select board member, that whether there was an oversight in recusing oneself, there is no benefit. My understanding, and I'm not a lawyer, I was married to one, but he's dead, that conflict of interest has to have some benefit to the individual, that there has to be either the sense or the reality that some benefit would come to the individual. So being a volunteer on the library board and being a volunteer on the select board and promoting something that the library supported does not feel like a big deal. I mean, the whole sense of what the library was going to be doing, whether it was too extravagant a project or not, was to put their vision out for a vote to the community.
Miranda, I'm asking you a question and you're dodging it. I understand what
not
your
dodging
opinion is. You were in a
Okay.
meeting,
I have
with him.
nothing more to say.
Okay, Michael, anything to say? You were in the meeting when he had to recuse himself and then you allowed him to vote on a bill for the library. I mean,
You
doesn't
asked
that
us a
seem?
second ago if we saw if there was a problem with this. Do you see that there's a problem with the way that you're talking to us right now?
I'm trying to get to the bottom of something
Yeah,
here.
yeah, well,
Yeah, right,
I
yeah, I mean,
appreciate that,
and he brought it up on the
yeah.
agenda. I'm giving you an issue.
Don,
We're talking about it. We're talking.
Don, And may I suggest that we move on from this discussion?
Of course you would.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Well, I promise you,
Yeah.
we'll put you on the next agenda.
Okay,
No problem.
yeah.
And I'd like
I
to
will,
talk with you
yeah.
beforehand so we can understand clearly what your issues are and we'll attempt to
How
address
could I
them.
not be any more clear than what I just said?
I have a number of questions. I don't want to take time for them now, but I'd like to talk to you. I'm happy to talk with you. And So
Yeah,
thank you
thank-
very much
yeah.
for coming. We'll hear this and we'll keep moving forward the best we can. And I would want you to, I would hope that you all would, those of you that are here to listen to this conversation, would attempt to understand that we're not attempting to stonewall anyone or stop any action or make anything difficult. We need to understand.
My gut feeling is Peter Rue does not want me to have those emails, period.
Doesn't want me to have them either.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I'll look into that. We are his superiors, so we'll look into that and see what we can do. Thanks very much. All right.
Michael, there are people in the waiting room that want to get in.
Oh, are there people in the waiting room?
Are people with their hands raised? I
All
mean,
of that
is
falls.
anybody trying to speak?
I don't think so.
I think everyone's in.
Okay, I think everyone's in, Sheila.
Ann wrote and said
She's
we're
here.
still waiting. I know, she said there were
And I
other
let
people
Maggie
waiting.
in
Oh, I see.
a few minutes ago.
Okay. All right, thank you. So next on the agenda is the Algiers Fire District, which we talked about. This is moving into old business, and this is talking now about, we had talked about last time about whether or not we need to look at a committee. Peter was going to do some background work and discover if there's a way that we can move forward on this notion. And he has done that research and sent an email to all of us about it, how we can move forward without the need of a committee. It's just a set of steps we need to go through. Slightly complicated, but a set of steps that we need to get through. So, is there anything anybody would like to say any more about the Algiers Fire District?
Yes, I would.
Rick, oh, hi.
Hi. Well, wellness, I'm on the Prudential Committee, one of the two members who are left on the Prudential Committee. And I've also been in touch with Peter about another issue not having to do directly with whether or not the AFD, the Algiers Fire District, should be merged with the town. But about being able to have members of the district apply for assistance from the Vermont Housing Finance Agency to pay past due bills. The members can do that. There's a way for them to do that. But at this point in time, there's no way for the Vermont Housing Finance Agency to be able to verify what the current billing is and what funds might be distributed to the members of the district. So I've requested that Peter, who is the only conduit I know who would have direct access to billing information, make the application and provide the information that the Vermont Housing Finance Agency needs to accomplish the distribution of funds. I sent an email to him about this over the weekend. I haven't heard back yet. And I forwarded the application information to him. So I'm hoping that this can be done so that VHFA can pay out some money and help both the members of the fire district and the bottom line of the fire district.
Great,
So,
thank you.
uh,
We'll look at that.
I hope that, well, I don't know whether there needs to be some sort of motion on the part of the board to make this happen, But at this point, the only way for that to happen would be for either Peter or someone else at the town office to access those funds,
Mhm.
or the records of those funds, I should say.
Well, we can certainly follow up with that. And so Peter was the only one. So Penny, you know, the town treasurer didn't have anything to do with that billing.
No, Penny, not Penny. I'm not sure who exactly in the office at this time would have the billing. We did get a bill recently, so somebody, and I think it went to Memrick or whatever that,
Yeah, right.
Nemrick.
That
And
was the
they may be the ones to do the application.
Oh,
I don't know. Because,
well, so let me just make sure I understand. I know about the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, you know, welcoming people who have overdue bills.
right,
We've been putting together a resource list for people who are having hard times.
Mhm.
And I know that you need to have verification. And so, you know, one of the select board members can follow up this week, just find out where the bills, who has the bills, so that, you know, I'm assuming somebody has created those bills if you
Right.
and other people have been receiving them.
just recently as following up after the meeting was it 2 weeks ago?
Right.
Yeah, we got a bill
All right.
after that.
I just talked to Penny and she said that she sent out the bills.
Penny sent them?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes?
I have information on that as well.
Okay.
I'm Retha Hurley. I was the previous clerk on AFD. I've been speaking with Penny. We are going to get together with the representative from Nemrick and myself and Penny, and I'm going to temporarily take over the billing until we can figure everything out. So I'm going to learn the system with her. She did do the billing this past bill. There was another one due April 15th. That I'm gonna work with her on that bill to get it going for the next quarter.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, volunteer stepping in. Thank you very much.
Well, that's so good to know.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Are you part of the Algiers Fire District?
I was, Michael Baker's my husband.
Oh, okay.
So I was on the committee.
Oh, right.
My term has expired. Currently, I'm not a Prudential
I
committee member
understand.
or the clerk. With the COVID, we never really had the regular meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just myself, Will, and Michael.
Uh-huh.
And it was never voted on again for me to renew my,
It's true that, I understand that, if I understand it correctly, it's true that for us to move forward with this, the Prudential Board will need to have a third member in order to move forward. So we'll need to find a community member who's willing to step up, even if it's for the momentary, but during the course of this process, to step up to this role.
Now you're talking about the process of merging the
Yeah.
AFD.
Yeah, not what you're talking about specifically, but the larger process
Yes.
of the merger. So,
Correct. So, and
so
again, I'm
community-
not sure that a meeting of the Prudential Committee would be required to do an application to the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. I shouldn't think it would be, because that's simply a matter of providing information to an agency which is attempting to help the members and the fire district itself.
a couple of things, yes.
When you're talking, I guess I'm kind of ignorant about, so are you talking of merging the fire district down there with the town?
Yes,
Will that make the town responsible for what goes on?
yes. Well, they would take care of the billing, but we also have to sort out, there's other issues aside from just the billing. as bond issues or other paperwork that has to be followed up on a regular basis, on an annual or semi-annual basis.
Yeah, and I see Ann Ryder's hand up. Ann's a longtime historian here with this project.
First of all, I'm sorry Peter's not there because I was very encouraged to receive his letter explaining the process. I was glad to see that it probably would not involve a committee, but I think it would be a good idea for the select board to keep this on the agenda, possibly not every meeting, but maybe once a month, to be sure this action is moving forward. To address what Doris said, though, I think it's important to clarify that the town would take over the billing, but it should not in any way incur any financial responsibility on the part of the town. The funds generated by the fees paid by the members of the Algiers Fire District pay for not only their use of water/sewer, but also pay for the administration, the billing, NEMRIC, whoever is doing it. And so Penny had been doing it, as Rusty said. And I think it's great that NEMRIC can do it as the stopgap measure until we get these entities merged, but this is not creating more of a financial burden for the town.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should just point out that the town was being paid for any assistance they gave the fire district in the past through the billing and other issues.
Thank you. Anything else that anybody would like to say about this issue? Issues related here. I saw there were some chat notes that came up. Could you?
Was there something in the chat?
There was. Can you put your open? There are 4 points over there. You see the down the bottom, the 4 there. The first one. Oh, yeah.
Any suggestions, Austin? People come to the edge of the table there to speak, facing this way, that'd be helpful. Way in the back, you're hard to hear. Request to identify?
Yeah, if people would identify themselves too, yeah, okay, we'll do that. All right, rules of procedure. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is old business is the ARPA program committee concept that we talked about. Let's see. We've had a discussion about this a little bit to move it forward. I'll just review for everyone that the select board just met in special session last week, and we are essentially running, as it were, 3 different grant programs, grant aspects, and we dealt with the first round of 2 of those, which one of those is to individuals and households. We made some awards, which you'll be hearing about in short order. We also made awards to businesses and organizations in town. Then there's a third aspect of this funding process that the select board sees as the kinds of investments that we can make into the community with the bulk of the money that is coming through the ARPA project. So I think we feel pretty strongly that we'd like to have a committee of community members who would help us actually do some of the work to bring forward the strongest projects, the projects that need to be looked at in our community, the ideas that need to be looked at as we think about the future of our community. There have been discussions already at some levels. Sheila was involved in bringing forward a group of people to have some discussions. We also have some applications from community members who are thinking about the future of our community, some investment projects already, but we'd like to broaden it a little bit, slow our process down a little bit and broaden the ability for us to find the best ways to invest this money as we go forward. So we're not about setting up a committee this evening, specific folks on the committee this evening, but we would like to hear if there are people that have ideas about that. Are there any responses from select board members at this point?
I think the committee is a good idea. I'm in favor of it.
Zon, I was wondering why the name got changed from advisory committee to program committee. Was that done on purpose?
Oh, no, that was just how that appears on the agenda. It wasn't intentional. Okay, no, it would be an advisory. Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it.
I'm sorry, Richard.
Yeah, no, I think advisory committee is more of what the function of the committee would be doing, is advising the select board on which projects the committee would want to recommend to the select board to look at and possibly fund out of the ARPA dollars.
Yeah, it is stated in the federal guidelines that it's the select board that makes the final decisions going forward. So that's a very, very good point. I see a hand up from Brian King.
Hi there, can you hear me? This is Lynn.
Hi, Lynn. Yeah, sure. Hi.
Hi, everyone. I just had a question. Would you be able to even briefly let us know, the community? You mentioned different projects that you're thinking of doing with some of the ARPA funds. And that's one piece that I think the community would like to know is, what are these? What are your thoughts? What is possibly coming to Guilford? Is that something you can share?
I don't think we have anything. I wouldn't say there's anything that's been at all spoken about, except just kind of like brainstorming ideas, but nothing that we, glommed onto and thought this would be a great idea. I will say that in the first round of when we asked folks to apply for funding, we did receive 5 or 6 project ideas from folks in the community. Those ideas can be brought forward. And I don't feel like we can speak about those at this moment. At this moment, they stand as applications. It would be unfair, I think, to speak about them in a public way just yet.
But Lynn and everybody, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, Katie Buckley, who is an ARPA advisor to VLCT, has created a toolkit for creating an ARPA advisory committee for the town, and we are planning to use that for guidance in creating a broad-based committee of people who would like to join in a conversation about what you would like to see. We have a limited amount of money, but it seems like a huge amount of money compared to the kind of belt tightening that we're usually working on. And so we'll be putting out requests for ideas, and we'll be engaging with people who would like to be part of the process. And, part of the process will be holding public meetings to get feedback about what people would really like to see. So if you have ideas about that, we're not going to be discussing them tonight, but, talk among yourselves and think, if there is an investment that would really matter to you, we want to know about it.
I'd like to, if I could just reply to, and Zon, thank you for the information that you shared. But the reason I asked my question is, you were mentioning the possibility of a committee to help do work towards the thoughts that are in place. And I don't think it would be disclosing a lot to just share what is that thought. So people might want to be on the committee. Do you know, right? How can people step up to be on a committee if we don't really know what you're presenting?
Lynn, we're looking for ideas from the committee. We want the committee to make suggestions about what projects Guilford can benefit from using the ARPA funding.
Okay.
There's nothing pre-planned. We're looking to the community to suggest what it is that we should do with the funds.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. That clarifies my confusion. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Maggie, see Maggie Foley's hand.
Hey there. Thanks, Zon. Hi, everybody. Zon, assuming that I don't know if you've heard from Selectboard on whether, if you're asking for ideas on what the structure of the committee would look like, but assuming that you kind of have this plan in place, I'm curious how people who would be interested in serving on such an advisory committee would let you know of their interest.
And I think it's good this evening that we're talking about that. I would just encourage people here in the room to talk it up and let people know and be in touch with me, and we can, we'll see where it goes. The select board will be putting together a committee in, probably at our next meeting. So we'll probably be communicating with folks in the community in the ways that we can. And we're not looking for a committee of 42 people or anything. We're probably looking for a committee of 5 to 7 people that can help us frame up some of these ideas and move things forward. So we imagine that this committee might actually be a collection source for ideas in the community, and then begin to forward those to us. I think there was one more chat topic there. Anything else, Sheila?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so as in my role as chair of the finance, prior role as chair of the finance committee, because that's also up on the agenda, right?
Yes.
I think that what you're doing is great, because we the finance committee talked at length about the ARPA funds, and we basically, as people remember, came up with 2 recommendations. One is to make, to the extent possible, people who really suffered in this community, to try to do what we could to help make them whole, to make things better. And the second was to look at projects that would meet the guidelines, but that would be increasing resiliency of the community I can't remember the exact wording, but it's in the October minutes. But to look to building the infrastructure of the community, to improving the infrastructure, and to increase resiliency for people who are in need, basically, or for the community as a whole. So I think you're moving. I like the idea of this committee. I know we had a lot of input. If you go back to the end of October, we convened nonprofits and other community commissions and other community organizations. I think we had about 20, 30 people here. Yeah. And a lot of good ideas came out of that. And I'm sure that some of those are reflected in some of the applications that came in. I would encourage whoever gets involved in this to be very familiar with the new town plan that's being proposed and that will be presented tomorrow night in the public hearing, because there's a lot in that town plan that could be applicable or could be related to use of ARPA funds. So, and I think that the former planning commission and the current planning commission have done an amazing job in pulling together this town plan, this proposed town plan, which I've read. But so I just wanted to say that I think this is a great idea, and I really applaud you for doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the ARPA funds was about $630,000, is that correct? And I think last meeting capped the individuals at $60,000. Mm-hmm. So we got over $500,000 here. Some of that has been allotted already, according to your last meeting. How many were nonprofits?
In the last meeting, let's see, so far, 1.
Just 1 nonprofit. Okay, so how much money is left?
I have to do the quick math. I think that probably, let me just think about this quickly. I'm going to say about over $500,000, 550 maybe. Don't hold me to it, but I think it's around that.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact numbers right now.
Okay, so we basically so far allotted out to several individuals. Is that all 60,000? Has that been allotted to that? Yeah. Okay, so
there may be further rounds. That
right. Could you give me a number? Obviously not individual, but how much of that 60,000 has been allotted?
In the first round, I think it was around $15,000 or $18,000.
Okay.
For individuals.
For individuals and households.
Right, and then so we've got 15,000, 1 nonprofit, and then some other organizations.
Businesses.
Other businesses. Now, those businesses, are they tied to individuals, or are they? So
They're
business could,
well,
I understand that, but does the individual's income tax on that business, or is it a separate business entity? Do they, when they do their taxes, is it to their personal, or is it to their business?
We did talk about that. I think that we understand, it's our intention to make sure that it goes to a business. It's not to an individual, and that it will be the award, if given, needs to go to a business.
Right, I guess what I'm getting at is why do you need to go in executive session for that?
We didn't go into
We didn't,
executive.
that was a
Well-
public meeting.
Right, but the one you just went into the other day, that had nothing to do with
That
this.
was not-
There was
Okay.
no executive session.
So the meeting when you talked about the nonprofit that got funding, that was in.
That was in
That was
public,
in-
in
yes.
public.
Okay, so what was the name of the nonprofit that got that money?
It was
I think it's called the
The
Guilford Grange.
the Grange,
The Guilford.
Broadbrook Grange.
The Broadbrook.
Oh, so Sarah Coffey's
No,
thing.
No,
Right, the
no.
Broadbrook Grange. Is
no,
she the
that's,
president?
no,
Is she the-
that's, it's
she's not doing
No,
that?
it's the Broadbrook Grange. I think
Right.
most people in this room.
So wait, Sarah Coffey's not involved with that?
No, just a second. It's the two organizations. One
Okay.
is Broadbrook Grange, and there's another organization called the Broadbrook Community Center. They're not the same organization.
Different buildings, different everything?
Different organizations.
Okay, all right. So we got one nonprofit getting how much money?
We're not going to talk about that right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's because
Because we.
It's
want-
going to be a public announcement.
We're going to make a public announcement about it all, so that it needn't be piecemeal out.
Right.
Okay.
okay.
And a press release.
There's
Okay.
a question on the chat.
Oh, there's a question here on the chat that says, is there a deadline date when the select board decides how to distribute ARPA funds? The federal guideline is that all ARPA dollars need to be obligated by December 31st of 2024. And all dollars need to be spent by December 31st of 2026. Does that answer your question, Christina? Is that what you were looking for? I think, I hope it is.
Yes,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay. All right, further questions? All right, so we'll say.
Zon, can I,
Yes.
I would just say that if folks in the room are interested in joining the advisory committee, that they should let the select board know. And also that we will be putting that out on Front Porch Forum and in other places where we are seeking members of an ARPA advisory committee.
Yep.
So we need to spread the word widely that that this committee is being formed.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you. We'll move ahead then to the Finance Committee, which is on the agenda. And the questions here tonight are, Sheila, do you want to come forward and be part of this discussion?
Do you want me to sit here or just?
Yeah, let's see here.
Here, you can have, I could just move.
Let's see, Gordon is here from the committee, and Ann is here. And is that Tim?
Anne resigned.
Tim's, yeah, Ann resigned, yes. Is her resignation, is it done?
Anne can speak to that, but I think it was effective a
Immediately.
couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, thank you. And then the other member is Lynn Pancake, who's not here this evening, I don't think.
What about Tim?
I will speak to that.
Tim
I-
is here.
Just to respond to your kind of question, I did resign effective the start of the new select board, the last meeting, because that was kind of the time you're appointing new commissions. So I resigned effective at that time.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do you want me to speak to this?
Well, I think what we're here to talk about tonight is, first of all, we just need to acknowledge that we're going to be asking the Finance Committee to set up terms among themselves. All of our other commissions have term seats. So that's something we think that the Finance Committee should do the same thing as recommendation. And then the second thing is about the charge. I mean, I would like you to speak to that because I think ultimately the select board will be making the decisions about what the charge looks like and how to actually inform, but it would be great to hear what you have to say.
So Peter emailed about the terms last week, and I polled the remaining members of the commission, and I sent that to you this afternoon. And it took me a while to get to this, but I'm sorry. So we have we're talking about 3-year terms. Tim Harris has stepped up for another 1 year, one year remaining of a 3-year term. Lynn Pancake has volunteered to do 2 years remaining of a 3-year term. And Gordon and I are volunteering to do 3 years of a 3-year term. And we started with a 5-person commission, and then Katie resigned. And Ann, I think that's when you came on, right, after Katie resigned? So that was the beginning.
Actually, Katie and I came out at the same time. So I think we started
Maybe
with.
we were larger, yeah. Katie resigned. And so now we have a vacant 3-year term. I did not bring the document. I can't get my computer up today, and I did not bring the document of the charges to the commission. I don't know if somebody has a copy of it, but we spent in the beginning, when the Finance Advisory Committee was being formed, we spent a considerable amount of time trying to figure out how a finance committee could best serve the community. And the immediate propelling action for creating the finance committee was the confusion around the spreadsheet, the difference between the spreadsheet and the figures that were presented to the town on the highway budget in fiscal year 2020 or
2020.
yeah. And so, but as we thought about it, we thought that in fact, particularly given the experience of the then makeup, the members of the committee, that we might be able to do more than just comment on the budget and participate in the budget workshops that are convened for the public, for 5 or 6 sessions before the budget is presented to the auditors, and then in the town report, and then to the town meeting. And so we came up with a whole list of things that we might be able to comment on, study, review. And I think that over the last 3 years, we've done a relatively good job of considering a variety of issues. And so I personally, we were going to get to a vote. The last meeting of the Finance Advisory Committee was about the library, and we did not decide, we postponed taking any action about making recommendations as a committee to the select board about what we might do going forward until after the new committee was formed or until new members were appointed. My personal opinion is that things are just getting more complicated in finances in the town, and that it's good to have another set of people looking at what's going on, not just because we know how to process, some of us know how to process warrants and pay bills and stuff like that, but there are bigger issues right now, and there are certainly big issues besides ARPA going forward, in terms of the town budget and the town funds and a bunch of other things. And so I think we should probably stick to the original charter, if you will, of the finance committee. But we as a committee have not taken a vote on that. That is my personal opinion. And I don't want to speak for anybody else on the committee. I would like to say that if we do continue in the same vein that we were going, I think it would help to have a 5th person who has a good financial background. Some of us have a good financial background in town finance, and some of us have managed $20 million companies or something like that. But it might be good to have another strong person with strong financial background on the finance committee.
Zahn?
Yes, Richard.
As the past chair of the select board, I found that the finance and helping to form the finance advisory committee extremely helpful in the select board's work in regard to the care they took with combing the budget, approving the budget, and helping the select board with the budget and other matters. So I think it's an extremely valuable committee. And I agree with Sheila that I think that the charge is just right. I mean, the charge is basically focused, as far as I remember, on the budget, on helping to produce a clean and clear budget for the town to vote on. And to recommend to the select board when they feel that it's complete.
Okay. Anybody, any other members have anything to say? And thank you, Sheila. It's really great, the work. I found it very helpful as well. Anything else? Gordon, do you have anything?
Yep, I'll put in my 2 cents. Gordon Little. I think the committee did, a great job following the charge that Richard more or less just outlined. Well, the select board gave this committee to kind of follow, as we went through the meetings. We're finding our way as a committee. Like any new committee, it's not, a perfect role every time, but I think we did make good progress, and I think Sheila's understanding, is certainly what I have in mind too. So, Tim?
I basically agree with that. I feel that the Finance Advisory Committee provides another aspect of how the town is proceeding with its resources. And I think that's a valuable way of bringing in other opinions and voices. So I would hope that we would continue to support the work of the select board and the town.
All right, thank you. I agree. Anne.
I agree as well. I know I said in my letter, I think we need to be careful of mission creep for the finance committee, but in rereading the charge as it's laid out, really those things are all, you're glad I'm not there, I've got a cold. But not COVID. But I think all of those things do support the work of zeroing in on the budget and the different aspects of the town finances. I just think we have to be careful of not broadening the scope beyond what is in our current charge. There's so much work on the plate of the select board. I think it would be easy to do that. But the select board is ultimately the decision-making body, and we just need to be sure that our work is advisory and focused in its scope.
I very much agree with that, Anne. That's a very good point.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yes, and so, it's wonderful that we have so many people here. If any of the people who are here or who are watching this meeting feel as if you have the expertise to join the finance committee, we would truly appreciate it. There are so many people who volunteer for things in Guilford, and this is a wonderful opportunity to meet with the public and ask if you would join us and help us. The finance committee describes themselves as a work in progress, and I have to say that the Guilford Select Board is too. Clearly you have seen our imperfections, but we welcome you to continue to share your insights with us.
Do we have a formal liaison from the select board to?
Rusty.
Rusty, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure that was the case.
Yeah.
Rusty, excuse me, are you comfortable to continue being the liaison?
Yes, I've enjoyed doing it, actually.
Great. Thanks, Rusty. All right. I think we'll leave it there unless anybody has anything else to say. We'll leave it there for now. Thanks. Yeah.
Was anything that Mr. Clark said, was any of that resolved, or did you come for a resolution about what was going on, or it was dropped that when he said he was charged $14,000, and then it's like, yeah, okay, and then we kind of moved on.
I think that was, as I understand it, I want to go back and talk to Peter, but I understand that was under the advisement of our legal services, but then it turns out that there was a mistake. So that.
Okay, but there wasn't a mistake for the $800 that you were charged.
And that still is above the Secretary of State's.
And that I'm going to look into.
But was it resolved? Or is it still gonna be, is it a work in progress for him to get what
It'll stand until I look at it and.
the whole deal as
Yeah.
far as the money and getting the information?
Yes, thank you. I think next on the agenda is the warrants, which we'll need to table those. There's a chat voice there. We'll need to table those because we don't have the warrants with us because Peter's not here. Peter Wells. Peter, I guess Maggie's there. You can, the select board appoints all members of every commission and committee. So if there are people in the community that are interested in serving on any commission or committee, they should speak with us, let us know. Our emails are available online. And then we'll move forward with that. Yes.
I would also say that it's been the practice of each commission and probably now the committees to also sort of interview or get to know anybody who's volunteering to be on a committee, just to see if there's a good fit there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay. Yes, that's true too. Did you hear that, Peter? So we're aiming for good fit.
Well, thank you. But now sorry, we're taking up one Zoom slot and 2 people. So I've just noticed that people are using the term finance committee and finance advisory committee interchangeably. And for me as a member of the public, that seems kind of just a little confusing because I feel like the mission of an advisory committee and a finance committee would be really different. So I'm just encouraging you to think about what the intention is, whether it's an actual finance committee of the select board or an advisory committee, which I feel like
the formal name, Maggie, is Finance Advisory Committee, and its charge is advisory.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Yep.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for that. I'm sure I'm making a mistake. Okay, so we're going to table the warrants at this point. And is there any other business that needs to come before the select board at this point?
Oh, I just wanted to say that Leah Gessner of Guilford Cares and Sarah Coffey and I have been putting together a resource list for Guilfordites who are having hard times of there are ARPA specific, there are COVID specific resources and also just general available resources, and that list will be in the Guilford Gazette and we'll be posting it. And when we do, if there are any resources that any of you know about that aren't part of that, you can let us know, because our intention is just to support everybody as broadly as we can.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, I was just asked that the, excuse me, the HAP program for VHFA be included with that.
It is included.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Sheila.
When you're going to entertain interested parties for different commissions or the committee, I would also put those invitations on Front Porch Forum and on the Guilford Facebook page, as well as maybe in the Gazette and stuff like that. The more it gets out there, the more likely we are to have great volunteers.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. And there won't be any communications we will have received. Peter would let us know of that. So there were no formal actions taken this evening by the board except to approve the minutes. Is that everyone's understanding?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could you make it an action that you resolve this within the week or a couple days, maybe? That'd be a good action to take.
It depends on, Peter's ill, so I don't know. I need to connect with him. So I'm not trying to put you off, but I'll move as quickly as we can. And I won't make it an action because it's just not required. I'll do it. Yeah.
Well, also in terms of getting back to William Wellness and the Prudential Committee, we'll get some clarity for both of you if you need us. It sounds like you already have a plan, isn't that true?
Somewhat. It's only temporary.
Okay, well, if you.
I only got involved because I was the
No,
clerk.
I get it, and that's wonderful.
Somebody needs to do the billing right now. So,
Right.
And I do have the accounting background.
Well,
that's another.
one beyond the finance advisory.
I do not.
We won't appoint you this evening.
Well,
All right.
thank you for stepping in.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so no actions taken this evening, promises made for sure. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Thank you, Richard. Is there a second? Miranda. I will take a roll call. Richard,
Aye.
Rusty,
Aye.
Miranda,
Aye.
Michael. Zahn says aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very kindly. Thank
Thank
you all for
you.
being here.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
everyone.
I took some notes.